You can't stop this.
I want what you want, but not at any cost. I really hope you make it.
I have to finish it.
There's a cost.
Alright guys, so the time has come for my Last of Us Part 2 review. Now this is a little last minute, so sorry if it seems a little strung together. I'm posting this the day before I'm recording this rather the day before the embargo. I had to rush to get the game done. Well, I didn't really rush the game, but I played it a lot over a small period of time. Like I completed it in 4 days, and I think my overall game time was between 18 to 19 and a half hours, so anywhere in that region anyway. I think my in-game clock said 18 hours 15 minutes, but when I compiled all my footage together, it was like 19 and a half hours, so somewhere in that region anyway. Cyberpunk 2077 jacket on, Last of Us review today, you know, PS5 event yesterday. I'm recording this before the PS5 event, but I'm imagining it's going to be amazing. And my Last of Us playthrough is starting on the 19th. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Let's get into this review. My backstory for the game is that The Last of Us, the first game, is one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely adore it. And Naughty Dog are one of my favorite developers. Uncharted 4 is another one of my favorite games of all time. Uncharted 2 is up there. It's great. So yeah, that's just a little bit of backstory. I am kind of biased towards Naughty Dog, I guess. But that's just because they make top tier games. If this game wasn't good, then I would say it wasn't good. There's some stuff that I don't like, which we're going to delve into, but there's a lot of stuff that I do like. So let's jump into the review. I'm basing this off the 7 Ps that my friend Scott gave me, okay? Just so we have some structure to this review, we're going to have the playing, which is the gameplay. Of course, we're going to have the plot, which is the plot and the story. We're going to have the people, which is the characters. We're going to have the places throughout the game, different level design, stuff like that. Then we're going to have the picture, where we discuss the graphics, the animation, stuff like that. We're going to have the fun, aka the sounds, and we're going to have the pop, aka the wow factor. So just so we have some structure to the review and we can go through it step by step, we're going to start with the gameplay. Also, this will be a spoiler-free review, of course. I might do a spoiler cast kind of video after the game has released and people have had a chance to play it for themselves. So let's jump on in. So we're going to start with the gameplay. The gameplay in this game is incredible. It's always intense. You feel like you can die at any moment, pretty much. Even playing on the normal difficulty like I was. There's 5 difficulty levels. There's very light, there's moderate, and there's hard and survivor, I think, are the 5 difficulties. But when you're playing the game, it feels so real, you know? It isn't the easiest to aim sometimes. It doesn't feel the smoothest, but when you will miss shots, but when you do like hit a clean headshot, it feels so satisfying. It feels so rewarding. And you can choose which way you want to play this game as well. You can go in stealthy, you can go in guns blazing, you can mix it up, you can kind of do a mixture of the two. If you want to go in guns blazing, nothing's stopping you. And even if you do get spotted, it's not a permanent thing like it is in a lot of games. That actually really pisses me off, where if you get spotted once, you have to go guns blazing for the rest of the mission, pretty much. Like, everyone knows where you are immediately. But you can actually lose line of sight in this game, regain stealth, which happened to me a bunch of times throughout my playthrough, which is really satisfying to do, kind of getting away from the dogs. And by the way, guys, you don't have to kill any dogs. In the actual gameplay, you don't have to kill any dogs, which is great. I didn't in my entire playthrough, went through it without it. It's actually not that hard to avoid them. I thought it was going to be a lot more challenging and annoying to avoid the dogs, but once you kind of get a good distance away from them, they basically stop tracking you, so it's not the most difficult thing in the world. Now, stealthy probably is your best bet in most scenarios as well, just because you don't use resources, you don't use as many resources, and it feels a lot more intense, I guess, and rewarding when you're trying to do things stealthy rather than just going in there shooting everyone with a shotgun and a flamethrower and shit like that. That would be my recommendation, is you try to do it stealthy at least. In part 2, you also have a lot more to explore and collect than the first game. Like, there was collectibles in the first game, but in this one there seems to be a lot. Like, in my 18 to 19 hour playthrough of the game, I collected well over 130 collectibles, or treasures if you want to call them that. And I didn't search every nook and cranny like I know a lot of you guys will when you're playing through it. So there's a lot more to explore that I didn't really go through. I just was kind of really invested in the story and wanted to see where it went. But there's certain areas that are a lot bigger than the previous game. Certain more open level designs and missions that there's quite a bit to explore. Also, there's a nice variety of weapons. There's not too much that it overwhelms you, but there's also a really good choice to help you get through different situations and areas depending on how you want to play. There's a bow and arrow, there's a magnum, there's a handgun. You can craft silencers for the handgun. The bow is already kind of stealthy, but as you go along, you'll get more weapons, and as you switch over characters as well, there'll be different weapons for different characters. So basically, there's also flamethrowers and shit like that. I don't want to spoil the surprise too much because there's some really cool stuff that you're going to find as you go along. You have to be careful with your weapons as well as you upgrade them, because there's different upgrades for each weapon, but you won't be able to do them all throughout your playthrough. You're going to have to play it through again in New Game Plus if you want to upgrade your guns fully, but like, you can do a good amount to your gun if you look for parts around the world. And the best one for me to go with is stability, probably, because it makes your aiming a lot more solid and stable, and that's the one that I went with for pretty much all of my guns. But there's some cool different ones. You can get scopes for your bow and shit like that as well, but just be wary that you don't go for everything at the start, because you're going to have to balance out what you want in each gun. You have to be a little bit strategic there. It's the same thing with your upgrades for the supplements. You won't be able to get every upgrade in a single playthrough, so choose the ones which you think will benefit you the most, of course, obviously. Listen mode is also a big part of the stealth gameplay, which you can use to track enemies that are that you're going to sneak up on, or you can use a bottle to distract them and get them to go the opposite direction. You basically know which way they're facing and where they're coming from. I think that's pretty much where I'll leave off on the gameplay. If you have any questions on the gameplay, you can ask me in the comments, because I can say pretty much anything I want about the gameplay. We're going to have to be a little bit more vague in terms of talking about the story, but in the gameplay, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll make sure to get back to you and answer them. So now it's time for the plot, the second P. So this is, to me, where the game has its biggest weaknesses, but also its biggest strengths. I know that probably doesn't make sense, but I'm going to try my best to explain it here. So this game made me feel like so many different feelings and so many different things throughout my time playing it. It made me feel happy, it made me feel sad, emotional. I was straight up angry at different points throughout the game, but I think I was meant to, you know? And there's also times where I didn't really know what to feel. So I'm going to try to be as vague as possible while discussing the plot here to avoid spoilers, but I'm sure some people who have seen the leaks will know what I'm talking about when I'm referencing certain things anyway. But just make sure you don't spoil it for anyone else in the comments or something like that. But if you want to be 100% out of the loop, I'd recommend skipping to the next timestamp in the video if you don't want to hear anything at all about the plot. So the game starts in Jackson, with Joel and Ellie's relationship seemingly on the rocks. You can tell things are a little tense and awkward between them, but you don't fully understand why at this moment in time. And this isn't really a spoiler, but a couple hours into the game, because Neil Druckmann has said this himself, something bad happens, basically. A couple hours into the game, okay? I'm not going to go over what it is, but something bad happens, and it really... it made my blood boil, okay? I was already super upset. I was like, no, I'm not having this. I don't even want to play. But then, as it went on and the game kind of progressed, I was getting back on board, and I actually was really liking where it was going. Pretty much the first 10 hours of the game just blew me away as it progressed and the story was coming to a climax. It literally blew me away. I was in tears in certain points throughout the story. It was really great. It's hard to even express and put into words, but it made me feel things, man. It was amazing. But then, as it's pretty much coming to the climax of the story, playing as Ellie, things switch up. And this, to me, is where the game started to slow down. And I didn't really know how I was feeling about it. There was definitely some cool stuff, and we learned a lot more about the Fireflies. We learned a lot more about what was going on in the world around us between the Wolves and the Seraphites, the WLF and the Seraphites. And it was actually really interesting learning about the two separate groups as we progressed with these new characters for maybe about 6 hours. And that's kind of the problem that I had. I felt like at times it maybe might have dragged a little bit as we were playing with these new characters through the big long sections, getting from place to place, and they were trying maybe a tad too hard to get us to like them. And I found it very hard to get attached to them like I was with Joel, with Ellie, with Tommy, and even with Dina and Jesse. So there was a couple of really strange moments as well, as you're actively touting against them while you're playing as them. So I don't know, it was really weird. There was two separate occasions during that part of the game where I was like, come on, and I was rooting for the person we're actually fighting against, and I'm like, come on dude, let's go, and I'm rooting for the character I'm playing as to get the shit beat out of them. It just felt really, really weird. Now, as I said, there was still some great stuff here, and overall I think the story came together really well at the end. And it gave me an incredible experience that I won't soon forget. Now, I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about the story and the plot because it's kind of pointless when I'm trying to avoid all talking about spoilers, but just know that Ellie and Joel and Tommy, all the scenes between them, they're just absolutely incredible, okay? And some of these scenes, the acting and the animations will just blow you away. So we're gonna move on. We'll still kind of be talking about the plot on this, I guess, but we'll be moving on to the characters. So I'll also have to be pretty vague in regards to some characters here to avoid talking too much about their motivations and what influences their story as well. But basically, the main characters are Ellie, Abby, Joel, Dina, and I feel like Tommy, Jesse, Owen, and Lev are also very important, but I wouldn't class them as main characters. Yeah, in this game, there's a lot of complex characters with complex motives. There's no real straight up like good or evil, and I believe Naughty Dog said this themselves, that there's no real heroes or villains in The Last of Us Part 2. So we're gonna play a little game here. I'm gonna choose my 3 favorite characters, excluding Joel and Ellie, because they're obviously first and second. Just to kind of go into the characters here without spoiling too much and just giving everything away. That's why I'm doing this little game that we're gonna play here. So number 1 to me easily is Tommy. I really liked his character arc in this game, and he came up clutch in so many different situations that Uncle Tommy is just a winner, man. You gotta love Uncle Tommy. If you don't, there's something wrong in your heart, and I fear that I will have to block you out from my life. No, I'm just kidding, but Uncle Tommy's the best. We love Uncle Tommy in these parts. I also like Jesse at the start. I thought he was kind of going to be a problem and a little bit of an antagonist to Ellie, but I actually really liked their friendship as time went on. You learn more about him, and like Tommy, he came up clutch a few times as well. And my third pick would probably be Owen. So this might surprise a few people, but he's Abby's ex-boyfriend, and he's the current boyfriend of Mel. I won't go any deeper than that. And the last character we're going to talk about is Abby. To me, it's a weird one, because I do like a lot of the stuff in her story, but I also don't really like her as a person. But we'll leave it at that for now, without delving too far in. We won't get to everyone, but I think you have a fair idea of some of the characters and their motivations and what the hell's going on in the story now. So there you go. That's pretty much all we'll say on that. We'll move on to the places, which we can't actually talk about too much because they say that not to spoil some of the locations. So what I'm going to do here is talk about level design instead. And this to me was some of the most impressive stuff about The Last of Us Part 2. Absolutely amazing stuff, right? From abandoned museums and aquariums to sky bridges and burning villages. Some of the set pieces and variety in the level design, it's absolutely crazy. It's mind-blowing. One criticism I probably would have is that a lot of the bigger, more open levels kind of look the same, but that's also because they're in the same area. It kind of makes sense. As we go on, each section is going to be a little bit shorter. Each P is going to be a little shorter. I feel like I've gone over the main points now, but we're going to get into the picture, aka the graphic, the graphics, which pretty much follows on from the places in that it's absolutely stunning. The graphics are definitely top tier, and the character models and animations are of the absolute highest quality, and Naughty Dog has been known for that already, so it's not a big surprise there. The attention to detail, even on the guns in the upgrade section, the dripping water off your clothes when you come out of the river or the ocean, the faces of the people you kill as you drive your knife into their neck. They make these weird faces, like a dying face, basically. It's not just static. The noises they make as they hit the ground, gasping for air, which brings us to the next P, which is the sounds, actually. So I don't have too much to say on this, but I'd highly recommend you play with headphones on to hear where the Seraphites are whistling from, or where the footsteps of your enemies are, and it just makes it a lot more intense and a lot more scary, I feel like, if you're playing with headphones. So that would be highly recommended. Now the last one is the pop or the wow factor, which I won't really go too far into because of spoilers, but there is a lot of wow moments where you're like, holy fuck, did that just happen? Or, oh my holy Jesus Christ, is this actually happening? And the leaks definitely don't tell the full story, so even if you saw the leaks and you were disappointed, I'd highly recommend checking this game out for yourself. There might be some things that disappoint you if you were upset by the leaks. There might be some things that annoy you, but overall the game is 100% worth playing to decide for yourself whether you like it or not, okay? This isn't a game you can just skip over because the leaks are bad. It's incredible. It's an incredible experience that you need to experience for yourself. I had some issues with it in the story myself, but overall, an amazing experience, and I hope you all love it as much as I do, or even more maybe. So yeah, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. It's not fully a 10 out of 10. It could have been, but it's very close, honestly, and I can't say enough good things about this. It's just those few little things that annoyed me or kind of upset me that brought this down to a 9 instead of a 10. But I'm sure some of you people won't even care about that stuff, so it could be a 10 to you as well. Now, I did feel like I kind of went through that very quickly. I might have rushed it a little bit, but I wanted to be as vague as possible. I wanted to make sure that you guys get the full experience for yourselves when you're playing it. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments when you do play it. Let me know what you think of my review. I want to do more videos like this. They take a lot of effort. They take a lot of time. So please do drop a like and show your support. It would mean a lot to me. My playthrough for The Last of Us Part 2 will be starting on release day at 5 a.m. British Standard Time. Kind of a weird time for the embargo to lift, but I have the full game recorded with face cam, everything like that. So you will be seeing my full playthrough within the days following release. Thank you all for the support. It really does mean a lot, and it's been my distinct pleasure to serve you all. I'll see you next time. Peace out.